Professional guardians under fire.
The families are wanting some answers here. Why don't you want to talk to us, Rebecca?
And the I-Team uncovers a system in crisis.
Obviously, bad things are happening, but there doesn't seem to be anyone held accountable.
Now, after our reporting, lawmakers are calling for change.
When I first heard about this, like, what do we need to do? And we need to do it now.
Yeah, and tonight the I-Team getting results after exposing very serious problems with Florida's guardianship program statewide, and now federal and state lawmakers are demanding major reforms.
I-Team investigator Adam Walser has covered this broken system for 6 years, and tonight he exposes a troubling backlog at the state watchdog charged with policing guardians.
No way. They're not going to put me in it.
The I-Team uncovering new problems.
The only thing I really wanted was to protect my mom and dad.
Plaguing Florida's troubled guardianship system.
My father is not the only senior that this has happened to. It's a heartbreaking nightmare.
We found guardians routinely issuing do not resuscitate orders without court approval. Why are you signing DNR orders when you don't have any kind of medical background? This guardian now under criminal investigation for the death of a man under her care after she ordered a DNR without permission. You choked to death after you signed this, and the hospital people told you that could happen. You not feel bad about that? We also discovered hospitals across the state paying attorneys to go to court and take away patients' rights for questionable reasons, such as a shortage of hospital beds, and because a patient with a Kia Soul that is almost paid off may be repossessed.
Certainly missing a payment on a car doesn't seem like it would be a financial emergency.
After the I-Team's findings, state lawmakers now sounding off.
It really shone a spotlight on the issue.
This is evil. What's happening here is really evil.
When I first heard about this, like, what do we need to do? And we need to do it now.
These lawmakers pushing bipartisan bills to crack down on how guardians are appointed and paid, and requiring a judge to sign off on any DNRs.
Bottom line is, we don't want to make a mistake because do not resuscitate is final. It's death. So I'd rather err on the side of caution.
And on Capitol Hill,
you start to realize after your great reporting, and thank you very much for that, the incidence of how often this is happening in Florida. It's very troubling.
Florida Congressman Charlie Crist backing federal legislation to better vet guardians, creating a national database to better protect an estimated 1.3 million seniors in guardianship nationwide.
Obviously, whatever steps have been taken thus far haven't been sufficient to stop the kind of activity, at least that we're seeing in Florida. But obviously, it's happening in other parts of the country.
In Florida, we found the state watchdog paid to police it all, falling down on the job.
What troubled me about some of the issues you guys raised was obviously bad things are happening, but there doesn't seem to be anyone held accountable.
That was Governor Ron DeSantis back in February, after we revealed the state watchdog in charge of keeping guardians in check was doing little to protect seniors from abuse, routinely issuing nothing more than warning letters.
That just doesn't strike me as being acceptable.
Now we've uncovered that state watchdog, known as the Office of Public and Professional Guardians, spent $641,000 of your tax money investigating 84 guardians, some for multiple complaints. But even though its own investigators found serious issues, the office has only revoked one license in the 3 years since it opened. And adding to that dysfunction, the entire office staff resigned earlier this year in the wake of our reports. The I-Team obtained new internal documents showing a huge backlog even before those resignations. And we uncovered in the majority of those cases, the investigation had been closed for more than 200 days before the Guardian was sent a letter officially closing the case.
I turned in those complaints in 2017.
Kathleen Zagros complained to the state watchdog about a guardian ignoring her mother's wishes and ordering a DNR. The investigation wrapped up on September 25th, 2018, but it was only officially closed after the office sent the guardian a warning letter on October 14th, 2019, more than a year later.
They weren't supposed to keep investigating it. They just sat on it.
So what were staff members doing during that time? Work calendars obtained by the I-Team show conference calls and budget meetings, but also more than a dozen office social events, including birthday lunches, a bake sale, a chili cook-off, and something called a rainy day pizza party. Zagros says she believes the state only sent her mother's guardian a warning letter after the I-Team got involved in her case.
It just took off. The story took off. And everything has happened since then. People are more aware. We're finally being listened to.
We contacted the state about our findings. The head of the Department of Elder Affairs says its watchdog has limited power to hold bad guardians accountable, and it supports new, tougher rules currently under debate at the state capitol. I'm I-Team investigator Adam Walser, taking action for you.
And you can see all of our I-Teams reporting on Florida's guardianship system and watch episode 1 of an online-only series of in-depth stories. Just go to abcactionnews.com/protection. It's all in one place.
2 Americans trapped in Qatar by a billionaire member of the Qatari royal family and their tale of escape from the Middle Eastern country. The story begins in 2017 in Los Angeles.
I was Director of Security for Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani.
Pasco County defense contractor Matthew Petard, a U.S. Marine veteran, was hired to protect one of the richest men in the world, the brother of Qatar's leader. The sheik, a race car driver, already had a reputation. The sheik's Ferrari and Porsche were caught on video speeding through stop signs in Beverly Hills in 2015. Police say the sheik tried to claim diplomatic immunity.
You can't claim diplomatic immunity if you don't have it, and you can't use that as an excuse to jeopardize the public or commit crimes.
Petard says they first met in Qatar while he trained local police and soldiers for defense companies owned by the sheik. Then he was hired to provide personal security in L.A.
I was down the hall when he actually OD'd and hit the floor, and we hit him with the Narcan, popped him right back up.
That's when the sheik hired Matthew Alande as his personal paramedic.
I would just basically be watching him, make sure that he doesn't stop breathing.
But Petard says the sheik's hard partying in L.A. took a more sinister turn.
There was 2 incidents in Los Angeles where they had asked me to kill a male and a female.
Petard says the sheik asked him to murder a man after he tried to collect a $6,000 debt.
And you didn't feel like this guy was joking?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Petard says he refused to carry out the sheik's orders and paid the debt. He says the sheik believed the woman had been texting a man from another Middle Eastern country.
He actually asked me to take her to the desert and jokingly mob style, pop pop in the back behind the ear, bury her in the desert. And at that point I got up and said, don't ever ask me to do that again.
Petard quit his security job and returned to defense work in Qatar. And so did the sheik. Alande shot video inside his walled palace in Doha, Qatar.
Servants everywhere, very luxurious residence, and it was basically the residence of a lot of partying.
With 3 garages filled with luxury cars.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Alande says the sheik's all-night activities eventually wore him out.
I was going sometimes 20, 24 hours straight.
When it came time for his day off,
went down there and he says, Sheikh changed his mind. You're not going anywhere. And I was like, wait, what?
Fearing for his life, Alande scaled an 18-foot wall.
So I jumped the wall, and as soon as I landed, I felt, my foot just instant pain.
Alande underwent surgery for broken bones and was held at the palace for 2 months.
The amount of fear from that point was just like, every day was a stressful day. You wake up and you're kind of wondering, what exactly is going to happen today?
He was finally allowed to fly back to the United States. But Petard says the medic wasn't the only American held against his will in Qatar. While in Qatar, Petard says he received frantic text messages from another American from Los Angeles.
From this other American saying, I can't get out of here. He's not letting me leave. There's dudes walking around with AKs. They pushed me back in the gate.
Petard says he contacted the U.S. Embassy and helped the man escape the country. But the sheik found out.
That's when he called me and he threatened to kill me.
After hiding for several days, Petard says he arranged a meeting with the sheik.
And he sits back and he puts his leg up on the table and he pulls his thobe up and he's got his Glock 26 and he taps it and he goes, just in case you decide to get frisky.
He says the sheik made him sign a non-disclosure agreement, then let him go. Petard's attorney, Rebecca Castaneda, says the agreement isn't valid because he signed it out of fear for his life.
And you're scared for your life and you're in a foreign country. Normal, typical employment is not like that.
The two Americans hired the Tampa attorney to file a federal employment lawsuit against the sheik and his companies, seeking $34 million.
And I think a big part of this is deterrence for them. Somebody like this cannot harm American citizens in their country or ours.
Back on U.S. soil, the men say they want to send a message.
You're holding Americans there against their will. That's not okay.
He needs help, a lot of help, and he needs to pay for what he did.
We reached out to the U.S. State Department, which says it is aware of these allegations against the sheik, but wouldn't say whether the government has opened an investigation. We also contacted the Qatari embassy and the sheik's companies for comment, but have yet to hear back. I'm I-Team investigator Adam Walser taking action for you.
It looks like clouds. You have the white with this blue tie-dye right here.
Ashley McPherson sells shirts, shorts, and sweaters on Facebook.
I'm going to show y'all the blue on really quick. I'm holding the camera up. I'm talking about the piece of clothing.
You have the right sizes.
In a few short years, her business grew from a spare bedroom
They ship every morning.
to this warehouse with 4 full-time employees, thanks to Facebook.
I've spent thousands of dollars on Facebook ads.
But after McPherson's followers grew, she stopped running ads and started getting messages like these, temporarily suspending her Facebook account for hours or even days at a time.
Facebook jail. That's what we refer to it as. I can't do my live feeds. I basically I'm just locked out of Facebook, and I have no explanation as to why I'm locked out.
And what do they say when you call up Facebook and say, why am I in jail?
There's not anybody to talk to.
The company did not answer our questions either about McPherson's account. Tech giants like Facebook, Google, and Amazon are accused of seizing too much control over information and the business market, leading prosecutors in most states to open investigations.
50 Democrat and Republican AGs are banding together to begin this investigation.
The internet has become increasingly concentrated, less open, and growingly hostile to innovation and entrepreneurship.
Congress and federal agencies are also investigating whether those big tech companies are becoming monopolies by violating antitrust laws and crushing the competition. Big tech has billions of dollars to buy up hundreds of companies that compete against them. Amazon bought Ring.com, Diapers.com, and Whole Foods. Google bought YouTube, Spotify, and Waze. And Facebook bought Instagram and WhatsApp. Consumer experts say that could be bad news for you.
They'll raise prices. They have no reason not to at that point. I mean, if they have no competition.
Attorney Susie Holler, a former Walmart corporate attorney, specializes in antitrust law. What's wrong with a company becoming too big?
Consumers have less choice. Try to call these people up. There's nobody even answers the phone. That if they get too much market power where they're the only store in town, that's when it becomes dangerous.
Google, which controls nearly 90% of online searches, dominates online advertising thanks to all the data it collects from our searches.
So they actually have sort of a virtual you that they know about, that they can anticipate what you are going to do.
April Wright, a computer security expert, says the government should regulate how big tech uses our data.
We are giving away our privacy every day to these companies, willingly and for free.
When asked for comment about its online advertising, Google sent us a link to a think tank write-up showing overall the price of internet advertising has dropped. Then there's Amazon, which raked in $280 billion in sales last year.
There is no bigger retailer in the U.S.
Anthony Rossi is among 1.9 million third-party sellers. He sold hair dryers, beauty products, and thousands of other items on Amazon for the past 5 years. Rossi is a 5-star seller, but Amazon says it suspended him for inappropriately contacting customers and threatening employees.
Trying to follow their rules and stay within their guidelines is next to impossible because they don't define it.
Rossi admitted sending sarcastic emails to Amazon employees because he was frustrated over shipping issues, but denies making any threats. Amazon told us it offers seller support 24/7 via email, phone, and chat, but confusion about Amazon's rules has sparked a cottage industry of companies that do nothing but appeal Amazon suspensions.
I think there's a real need for government to step in and protect not only just the consumer, but also the sellers.
We reached out to Facebook, Amazon, and Google about those ongoing antitrust investigations. Facebook didn't respond. Amazon says it doesn't address specific investigations, but welcomes scrutiny. Google says it provides products people want and engages in fair competition. You can read all their statements on abcactionnews.com. I'm my team investigator Adam Walser, taking action for you. Would you be able to work without HART? No. Hillsborough Area Regional Transit, or HART buses, haul thousands of passengers a day to their most important destinations.
If a bus doesn't come at the right time, I don't make it to my doctor's appointment.
But even if you don't ride, taxpayers fork over nearly $100 million a year to HART.
The current state of HART is strong.
That's former CEO Ben Limmer before he resigned following an investigation completed in February that cost taxpayers $100,000.
I wanted to stand up and personally stress to each and every one of you how deeply apologetic I am over all of these transgressions.
Those transgressions included giving a contractor an unfair advantage by allowing the firm to write its own $3 million contract and charging taxpayers thousands of dollars for meals and hotel stays. But even before Limmer's departure, HART had been in the news for the wrong reasons. A driver was murdered on the job last May, others seriously injured.
New at 11, attacked on the job. A HART bus driver is in the hospital after a passenger slashes him with a box cutter.
Low ridership resulted in route cuts and delays. And as Hillsborough County grew by more than 100,000 people, HART lost 3 million riders a year.
Mr. Limmer, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you here.
Limmer was brought in to turn it all around. He was paid $210,000 a year. On top of that, he dined at some of Tampa Bay's most elite restaurants while taxpayers picked up the tab. We showed those charges and menus from those restaurants to riders. 126 one day, 41 the next.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
What's that?
Atlantic salmon, chicken piccata. In just 7 months on the job, Limmer charged meals at Cooper's Hawk, the Steelbach and Armature Works, Carne Chop House, the Capitol Grill, and Malio's.
It's wrong to do this and use taxpayers' money to do this kind of thing.
But that wasn't all investigators found. Limmer racked up an $1,100 bill at Tampa Marriott Waterside during a conference. And he lives in Tampa.
You've got to be kidding me.
Nope.
That's insane.
But it wasn't just Limmer charging big bucks on HART's credit cards. The I-Team uncovered other HART executives racking up expenses for overseas trips and restaurant meals. Credit card records show these executives spent $500,000 on food and travel in 5 years, flying to Paris, Toronto, Seattle, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and New York. The I-Team asked HART for detailed expense records, and we're still waiting for answers. Among the hotels where they stayed, the Ritz-Carlton, the Four Seasons, and the Waldorf hotels. How much did you think you paid, HART?
I didn't think I paid anything.
Fares cover just 11% of HART's operations. Your federal, state, and local taxes make up most of the rest. Retired teacher Chris Hickman sees the need for public transportation, but doesn't believe in waste.
We could have used that in the schools instead of paying somebody to go out to lunch or dinner or whatever.
Did they give you a P card you could use at the chop house of the school district?
No free lunches.
HART's interim CEO Carolyn House Stewart refused our interview request to talk about the spending. So did HART board chairman Les Miller, who said he was too busy to talk.
Adam Walser.
Hello, Mr. Chairman and board. So I shared our findings with the full board.
And we found a pattern of executives going and staying at lots of fancy hotels where some of the room nights were about $600 each.
But the board did not respond.
Thank you so much.
We're going to move now to welcome our newest member to the board.
Eventually, our crew caught up with Miller as he was leaving the meeting.
Can we get you in the elevator? No, sir. I don't have time, okay? Okay. No, I don't have time. Yeah.
Well, I think we have to ask the question, sir.
I'm not going to have to answer it.
During an elevator ride, Miller finally offered a few words.
What would you say to the taxpayers? Should they be confident in HART going forward?
HART's in the right direction. We have an interim CEO who's doing a fantastic job, and that's basically all we have to say.
Do you think they should look back at all the travel policies and people going to all these states?
But right now, we're doing the right thing and moving in the right direction.
4 days after that meeting, a HART spokesperson emailed us a statement saying its employees regularly attend trainings and added the agency is now reviewing its credit card policy. I'm I-Team investigator Adam Walser taking action for you.
That's Mark and that's Andy. They put on a good front.
Mary Homerding never suspected her neighbors were child sex traffickers.
They were always polite. They even joking around.
Because they would ride by in the golf cart and wave.
Nobody in this quiet 55 and older mobile home park suspected a group of 6 men had been keeping 2 teen boys in this trailer starting in 2017.
They were really nice, you know, that's what the shocking part is.
Neighbors said they were surprised the men got away with it for so long because the boys were being held in that blue trailer just a few feet away from the neighborhood trash containers, which many of the residents of this 600-unit complex used multiple times a week.
I've never seen the kids. Yeah, as many times I went to the garbage can because they live right across from the garbage can. I never heard anything, never seen anything out of order.
Police say the men in the trailer and another woman in north central Florida used video games and online apps like Omegle, Roblox, and Discord to find and communicate with their victims.
The majority of people playing games are boys. And that's how our boys are lured in.
A 2016 study funded by the U.S. Department of Justice estimates 36% of child sex trafficking victims are boys. The first victim was a 16-year-old boy from Marion County.
The teenage victim in this case was lured away from his family with promises of a better life. Instead, he was moved into a filthy trailer and used as a sex slave for nearly a year.
The boy first met these 2 men, Mark Dennis and Andrew Clements, at their 2017 wedding. Police say he was brought to the wedding by a family friend, Eleanor McGlamory, who is charged with conspiracy in the case. Dennis and Clements immediately started texting the boy using Discord and picked him up at his home 140 miles away 3 weeks later. Police say they disabled his cell phone so he couldn't be tracked, then gave him a new name, birthday, and backstory.
And the kid was polite. He seemed happy.
Homerding says she only saw the boy once, riding a golf cart with Clements.
He introduced him as his adopted son, and the boy agreed.
Did you think it was odd that you didn't see him for months and months after that?
Well, I figured it didn't work out.
People are so busy that they go about their life and they don't always look at clues or look at signs that something could be wrong.
Police say Dennis, Clements, their roommates Curtis Gruwell and Michael Schwartz, and associates Michael Blasdell and J.R. Gauthier were involved in the trafficking ring. They say 4 of the 6 men repeatedly raped the boy inside the trailer.
Yeah, I asked him if there was anything going on because it seemed like he was really depressed.
Abigail Ackerman met the victim and traffickers at a pagan festival where she says Mark Dennis offered to pay her $2,000 to make the boy a fantasy costume.
They wanted me to make him a blue and white husky suit for his birthday.
And she said the men showered the boy with other gifts.
Buying expensive things like game consoles, a full-blooded husky puppy that they bought him.
Well, that's part of the grooming process, and that's part of, even though there might not be physical chains around a victim, around a person, they have mental and emotional chains around a person.
Police say they found whips, leather masks, and bondage tools inside the trailer. According to police reports, Mark Dennis called himself Grand Master and referred to the others as his pups, who made up what he referred to as his family circle.
We all have this deep-rooted sense that we want to have family.
But police recovered text messages showing the boy was unhappy. I'm stressed to high hell. I don't want sex all the time, the boy said nearly a year into captivity, which is such a shame when such a tight group of people who love you have come into your life, one of his abusers replied. Then in 2018, they met a new victim online, a 17-year-old Louisiana boy they convinced to come live with them. Eleanor McGlamory and Curtis Grewell drove about 10 hours to pick the boy up in the woods near his rural Louisiana home in the dead of night, court records show. 3 days later, Louisiana police found the boys' online messages and rescued both boys from the trailer. Now all 6 men are facing charges of conspiracy to commit human trafficking.
It's very, very important that we teach our children not to give out personal information.
Experts say parents should monitor their kids' online activity, especially messages with any strangers.
They have a computer in their hands that they're opened up to anything and everything in the entire world.
We posted more information on how to protect your kids on abcactionnews.com. As for the people charged with trafficking these boys, they're currently behind bars awaiting trial, and 3 have entered into plea deals in exchange for their testimony. I'm I-Team investigator Adam Walser, taking action for you.